to thank you and John Carpenter, Deborah Hill, because if it wasn't for you and many others making these films, there would be no Midnight Madness program.
Yeah, far out. Exactly.
I usually welcome people to Midnight Madness, but you are Midnight Madness.
I like that. Thank you. Hi.
My name is Peter Kuplowsky. I just embarrassed myself in front of Mr. Nicolas Cage. He is in the house. Soundtrack tonight. This is a very special night. We're about to watch Color Out of Space. But first, I would like to acknowledge that tonight's events, we're all here on land. We are on the land that was once, that is still the traditional, the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of the First Red Nation, and the treaty territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Huron-Wendat. We are grateful for having the opportunity to work with the community. Thank you so much each and every day. We'd also like to thank our friends at Spinach for making this night completely mad. And a reminder, this film, one of 10 films in the Midnight Madness section, is eligible for the Girls People's Choice Midnight Madness Award. Not only will it take home that award, but an extra screening will be added. So please vote at tiff.net/vote. And of course, a major thanks to Spectre Vision and XYZ. Thank you. All right, guys, this is a long time coming. In 1990, a filmmaker took, not this stage, but he took the Midnight Madness marquee. He is he's a visionary filmmaker who was here for Hardware in 1990. Woo! Amazing. Well, he is back, and he is about to blow your mind. Meet Richard Stanley!
Hey, thanks. Absolute pleasure being back. I'm going to keep this brief because we want to get the film started and answer the questions later. But I wanted to, up front, thank the dark gods of Lovecraft's mythos for making this happen. I wanted to thank my producers and my incredible crew and my incredible cast, most of whom are here tonight and will be on the stage once the film is run. But most of all, I wanted to thank you guys. I wanted to thank the audience for making this happen, because we'd be nothing without you. What I can tell you is you're about to see and experience something that you have never experienced before.
Back to the stage, Director Richard Stanley and the Gardner family, Nicolas Cage, Richardson, Madeleine Arthur, Meyer Elliot Knight, little Julian. All families here. Take some time to come up with some questions. I'm going to start things off. It's been quite a while since you've returned to fiction, and you've returned with an H.P. Lovecraft story. What attracted you to specifically this short story that made it, that made you want to revisit this world?
H.P. Lovecraft's favorite story of his own work. I read it when I was 13 years old. My mum introduced me to Lovecraft. She was my mother's favorite author. And I guess as a 13-year-old, I thought, well, I can't shoot Call of Cthulhu because it's like at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. You can't do it about madness because it's in Antarctica, and you can't go to Venus, but this one's still at a farm. It seemed approachable when I was a 13-year-old.
Speaking of farms, alpacas, huh? What inspired the alpaca as the creature of choice?
Color Out of Space has been filmed a couple of times before, and it's also probably the story that inspired like half the sci-fi movies in the 1950s, including Jack Arnold's It Came From Outer Space and The Blob. So I didn't want to do another movie where you saw a farmstead and a meteorite came and went and hit the farmstead, and then cows and pigs and chickens got affected. I thought it can't be cows. It's got to be something else.
One of the things I enjoy so much about the movie is the way the color affects each member of the family differently. So I'd like to start with you, Richard, in terms of how you sort of plotted that out, using the Lovecraft material as a source, but also how the cast, how you tackled the idea that the color was reacting uniquely to each individual character. I think we could go along the line and see how people interpreted how the color affected them. But I'd be interested in starting with you, Richard, in terms of what you were thinking.
Well, I guess on its worst level, the gardeners start to resemble my family. But everyone starts to resemble their worst nightmare in a way. And poor Nathan starts to literally turn into his dad.
Well, the thinking was, there was an early scene with Julian and myself, and sort of planted the seed as to how I could still hear Nathan's father's sort of academic, verbally abusive, intellectually, verbally abusive voice. And so as the color begins to affect Nathan, and he begins to degenerate, that ancestor, the father ancestor, starts to come through him, and he becomes increasingly more like his father, the way he treats his family and his children, and particularly his daughter. And so that was, I just wanted to plant that seed with Richard early on in the movie, then have it start to progress as his condition, along with the rash and everything, begins to degenerate.
Your character is also very obsessed with smell, something that none of the other
Yeah,
characters...
more than the rest of the family, the smell affects him right off the bat, and I think that was really the hook that starts to affect him mentally and physiologically.
Brendan and Madeleine and Julia, and Julian, of course, you. How did, what was going through your mind when you were whistling at that well? What did Richard tell you was down there?
Say that one more time.
What did Richard tell you what was down that well? Like, how did you get in the headspace of whistling towards that well as creepily as you did?
Well, sometimes when I act, my brain just clicks into actor mode, and then
It's a real one over here.
The muses speak to you. I'm just saying bullshit. I'm saying. Apologize to your parents, though.
So for Lavinia, it was a lot of sound that affected her, and so the sound of the whistling and sound coming from the well that affected her stomach and her body, that often made her feel very sick. But I feel like with her it's interesting because throughout the movie she wants to get off the farm. Even in the opening scene we see that she wants her freedom and wants to leave. But I feel like in the same way the color also affects her in a slightly, if I may say, positive way, in that she starts to care more for her family. So I found that interesting to play with.
Do you know what? It's really difficult for us all to talk right now because this is the first time any of us on this stage have seen the film, and we're all shaking, absolutely shaking like leaves. And you know, I think that's all thanks to, I think I'm allowed to say this even though we're in it. I mean, Richard, that was amazing! directed signing on, and to answer your question, I think that Richard really talked us through it, and he was very specific about saying, sorry, hello, talking to the audience, just very specific about, you know, oh, you're hearing a sound, or so we're all haunted. I think I was haunted very much from the beginning.
Yes, yeah. You know, it's interesting thinking about being affected by the color, because I feel like Benny doesn't have something as obvious as like a vocal change or a rash or a personality change or something like that. But I think it's just the idea of all these things going on where your mind starts to betray you. You know, you put the alpacas in the barn and all of a sudden they're outside. Or your dad's supposed to be a nice person that you have this relationship with, now he's screaming at you. So I think that was really what I found interesting from a character perspective, is what happens to somebody when externally what they're seeing seems to clash so much with what they know is right. So I thought it was pretty interesting.
And Elliot, the color affects you less, but you do have a pretty great fight scene there with Nicolas Cage. And I just want to know, well, how did that work? What was that experience like?
The fight scene?
Yeah, that fight scene was terrifying.
Just having Nick running you without any effects or CGIs can be pretty horrifying.
Oh my gosh, Richard just reminded me of this song that I had developed way back when I did Honeymoon in Vegas. When and I used to sing this song. It was like a rap I would go into, and Jimmy Conn would crack up. But I started singing it on the set, particularly around the time Elliot and I had the fight scene. It was something like the camera's rolling, the lights are on, the director calls action, the director calls cut. Act, everybody, act. Whenever it's like really late at night, we're on night shoots and it's 4 a.m. and we're all exhausted, that song will come out.
He literally sang that right before the takeaway. He comes out and he's like, that was the prep. So, you know, super easy.
It's true, I was doing it right before like the most crucial moment in the fight scene. I don't know how you tolerated that. Anyway.
I'm about to throw to the audience, but I first just want to highlight, on the subject of music, Colin Svensson, the composer.
Oh my gosh.
The audience. We have Brett Bachman, the editor, too. They should come up on stage in case anyone has any questions for them. Yeah, Brett Bachman, please come up. I also want to know, Brett Bachman, also the editor of The Vigil, which is playing Monday night at 11:59. Check that out. All right, questions in the audience, right there.
So I caught the thing of the whippoorwills from the Dunwich Horror as a signal of danger. Were there any other kinds of Lovecraftian goodies that you were able to put into a feature film like this from other stories that you were able to kind of do?
The question is about Lovecraft Easter eggs. He caught one of them from Dunwich.
Yeah, you may be one of the few folks who picked up on the whippoorwills, because not a lot of people have heard whippoorwills for a while. They're obviously a nocturnal bird that you find in New England. And I figured as we're just down the road from Dunwich, it makes sense that they got whippoorwills in Arkham too. If you read Dunwich Horror, you'll know that the whippoorwills mass around people when they are about to die. If they fall silent after you're dead, it means you've gone to heaven. And if they start calling after you're dead, it means they've got your soul. So hence the reason we're hearing whippoorwills in the background when Nathan is dying on the porch. But yet something only a real Lovecraft aficionado picked up on. Yeah, indeed. Congratulations. On that subject, other things that are floating around in there, obviously, apart from the place names, like Ben used to have a girlfriend in Aylesbury, etc. One of my favourite gags is that Elliot is forced to confront the extraterrestrial threat at one point, armed only with a paperback copy of Algernon Blackwood's The Willows, which was H.P. Lovecraft's vote for the scariest story of all time.
He's from Toronto too. Nick's here.
Right over there. Yes.
This question's for Nick Cage. I'm just wondering, what sources of inspiration did you draw from when you were figuring out how you're going to play this role of the father?
What inspired your performance in this film?
Oh, well, I have to be very careful how I answer that. I I just think memories and dreams and reading the book. And I remember, my father, who was a professor of literature, and he introduced me to Edgar Allan Poe, and then I discovered Robert Chambers' The King in Yellow, which I think inspired Lovecraft to be a writer. And I got to Lovecraft and I asked my father, how high is Lovecraft in the pantheon of great American horror science fiction literature? He says extremely high. So that compelled me to read most of it. And then it led to the current maestro today, which is Stephen King. So I think, not that my father was anything like the character I was channeling, but I did think a lot about, we talked earlier about independent cinema, and I did a lot of exploring in a movie called Vampire's Kiss. And that movie was really the first time I got to realize my surrealistic, German expressionistic dreams, and I think that's where I first developed the voice that I later, and some of the facial expressions, which I then put into Face Off. Richard he really enjoyed Vampire's Kiss, and I said, you know what? Maybe we ought to channel a little Peter Lowe here for Nathan's ancestor, his father. So that was where I was going with that.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, how much of the special effects were practical and how much were...
Question is the distinction between practical. I can say too, I saw the rough cut of this film. There's so many practical elements that have been augmented by digital effect. There's definitely practical base to a lot of them.
Yeah, we tried to do everything practically, and then we increasingly coloured over them with VFX. The only thing which was completely VFX was the mantis and the colour out of the well. But everything else, even the cat on the road, was at one point a rubber creation, as were the alpacas. That we had to try and paint over them and make them, bring them slowly back into reality. But yeah, we did try and do everything practically first.
Right there. Question, come on.
Yes, it's for Nicolas. How was it acting with the alpacas compared to other animals?
The question was about...
It was a lot of...
Was the milk as delicious?
Was the milk as delicious?
Well, I hate to break the illusion, it was just normal vitamin D cow milk. The alpacas were a lot more enjoyable than working with cockroaches. Yeah, they were really loving and quite sweet animals. It's a good question.
Creating a Lovecraft adaptation that would still resonate with a modern audience.
What was the biggest challenge in adapting Lovecraft that you found when facing this project? I mean, I suppose the color.
Yeah, ultimately, I guess it was realizing the thing at the well and the colour. And the colour came to me in my dreams a lot. It was giving me a hard time, and I didn't like the initial cut of the film and where we were going with it. And I was dreaming and it was saying, no, you've got to change the way Nick acts at the last scene. He comes back as a zombie. It's too robotic. When I take people over, I want it to be beautiful, just like the way I'm taking you over now. And I was looking at my hands and seeing this thing burning out of my flesh in my dreams. It was kind of brooding over me. But really, tonight was the first time I've actually seen some of those finished VFX shots on the big screen. So it was right to the very end that we were pushing to try to give some kind of shape or substance to the alien's thing itself without going too far, without making it too solid or pushing it too far into something familiar.
Do you have any questions on the balcony? Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely.
What inspired you, what inspired you, I can't say it right, but...
You got this.
Thing, what inspired you from, that thing in the shower that gave Nicolas Cage, The Rash.
Oh, the little jellyfish in the shower? What was the word?
Yeah.
Well, I guess all those times of different strange showers that I've noticed. You also running up and you have to reach down with your hand into it and unclog whatever the heck it is. Somewhere in the back of your mind, you're always frightened it's going to grab you back.
Great question. I think on that note, guys, please give it up